Hello, hello. Welcome to Transit Talks, human design transits, real talk in real time.
I'm Kathy.
And I'm Jess. We meet up about every 6 days to explore the current human design transits and how they're actually showing up for us in our lives. And we'd love for you to join us.
We're talking energy in the moment, what we're feeling, what we're noticing, and what the transits are stirring up inside us and all around us.
So whether you're joining us live or listening later, we're glad you're here.
Let's get into it. You ready? Okay. So this week we are talking about creativity, receptivity. Well, actually in the opposite order, but I always put me first because that's just how I am, right? And I'm in the earth energy this week. So I am showing up as my inner artist. I've got my Frida Kahlo shirt. I was really surprised to see she does not have gate 1 defined in her chart, but she's got the 8. And we'll talk about how I think that plays out, maybe even a more creative way in that aspect, but we'll get into that. And Jess.
Yes. So today I am gate 2, the receptive, which I don't actually have in my chart, but I think it's a really, really beautiful energy. And I know a lot of people with the 2 and seeing that energy in them, that receptive. It's also known as the direction of the self. So today I tried to find water. I was looking for the surrender, something watery.
Awesome. You look like a Disney princess, but you kind of always look like a Disney princess. So it's
so
perfect.
funny you say that.
Right?
Yesterday, someone told me I looked like a blonde Snow White because I had a blue skirt on with like a white crop top and a red bow.
You should have told her you were Alice in Wonderland, right?
Yeah, I love it.
Awesome. Yeah, so gate 2, it's funny because all these gates have so many things. In the I Ching, the Rave I Ching, it's referred to as the gate of higher knowing. And in the I Ching, it's the receptive. I've seen a lot of human design stuff that call it
The direction of
right. I've seen that a lot too. And then we've got Gene Keys names and QHD names. I've also heard it called the keeper of the keys.
I love that
I
one.
wanted you to come up with show up with a whole bunch of keys.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
funny enough, my key for my car is actually my phone, which is problematic when my phone dies.
Oh, yeah, that would not be good. You need an actual key.
Right. That's too funny. But if you think about the energy of this, it's absolutely perfect because it is that higher knowing, that receptivity. What is that higher knowing? It's stepping into love. And so I absolutely love that I get to talk about this one today and how it is that you get to step into that. I'm actually pulling up the transit screenshot to share. So if you wanted to start and share a little bit.
Okay, I was just finding it in the group so that I could pin it. We're trying to multitask. We need an admin for everything, right? Mary is at her meetup in Wisconsin. They're having a human design meetup, and I'm super jealous. I mean, I'm always jealous of those meetups. I really want something here in Georgia, or even I would drive to Chattanooga because I'm pretty north in Georgia. Oh, but
anybody in the area, definitely reach out to Kathy and set that up when we were in Austin. That was so beautiful, you know, to be able to connect with people. Monique, Dr. Julie, and I are setting up one down here in the Miami area, which is super exciting. It's, absolutely.
So if we're going to share, we're going to talk about the sun first. Gate 2 is where the sun transited. It came in our part of the world, that's Eastern time. It was like 6:20 this morning. And so we get this beautiful energy that's in the G center or the identity center. Shaitan calls it the self center. And it is the seat of the magnetic monopole. So if you just think about what that means, we know the magnetic monopole is one of the major components human design. It's what draws all of our people and experiences to us. So this is the place where we receive everything that life is bringing to us. It's the receptive, but I love that it's also called the gate of higher knowing because that receptive nature, it does know what to bring to us, right? There's the thing that happens where we keep programming this magnetic monopole, one-sided magnet that only attracts, right? And waiting for a bringing magnet.
I attract it.
As we attract things to us. We have choice in how we respond to it, no matter what our design type is. We all respond. It's not necessarily our strategy or our authority, but we all respond to life by doing something, right? We accept an invitation. We react a certain way. We decide to be reactive or responsive. And I think as we were going into this whole process, I was working on my blog, which is not really done. And I'll get it posted as soon as it is, but I was reflecting on how when we receive things and we don't acknowledge them and we focus on what's missing rather than what we have, gratitude is really important in this receptive gate. So what we focus on grows. What we resist, we're still focusing on. So what we resist persists. And gate 2 is asking us to receive and to really focus on what we're receiving in this beautiful way, right? And it's grounded in this direction of gate 1 that we'll get into in a minute. But if you want to talk a little bit more about gate 2.
So just wanted to go back to the screen share to go over right now. The sun is gate 2, like Kathy was sharing, and the earth, which is gate 1, is the activation on the other side. Those are both on the G center with the magnetic monopole. Some people talk about gate 2 as the keys of the vehicle. This is the thing that starts the engine for the driver in human design. And so that's kind of a beautiful way of looking at it. And so direction of self is really leaning into like, what is the direction? It's that love and beauty and connecting back in with that. For gate 2 over here, we have gate 14, and that's on the sacral center. So it looks to the 14 for that fuel. So really noticing with the gate 2's energy, this is aligning with your direction, empowering others to step into and align with their own direction. But this is more like that overview level. It's not necessarily to make it happen. So connecting in with that gate 14 for that fueling of it, almost in a way like permission to be yourself by being so deeply who I am and bringing in this essence of love that it then activates something in someone else to really step into what that love looks like for them and that open receptiveness. And I really love the way that Richard Rudd talks about this. He says that it's no agenda. It's just love. Just sitting with that. Oh, so good. So it's not necessarily that you have to go and do something and help someone for an agenda, because so often, all of us have this feeling within ourselves like we're missing something, we're looking for something. And that's why we love love so much. We feel like if we find love in another person or a job, and you can find that it can fill that hole within you, that piece within you that feels like I'm missing something. There's something within me. Like, the whole thing with this is really coming back to, it's not outside of you. You are life itself. You are love. You are the love you're searching for. It's within you. And so coming and surrendering. And that's where Richard actually talks about the water. It's all about the water and it's surrendering. But it's also not just surrendering that it's like, oh, I'm blissful, like floating on a river. It's also going to like crush you, right? What are we surrendering to? Everything. All of the feelings where you feel like, oh my goodness, I am so in the depth of the sadness, that feeling when you're so happy, all of it, surrendering and remembering that there are no mistakes, right? We are life itself, experiencing the experience itself. It cannot be a mistake. You cannot make a mistake, right? Because you're learning and you're stepping into it. So, there's nothing in this gate 2. It's the quintessential prime feminine energy, not female itself, but that feminine receptive energy, that void, deeply stepping into the yin. Just knowing that there's nothing you have to do. There's nothing that you have to learn. So often we're like, if I can just learn this thing, if I can just do this thing, then right? I'm already in it. Trusting and surrendering life through the magnetic monopole is going to pull in exactly what you need, right? Like, how good does that feel? But again, sometimes it's not going to feel great. What's coming in, but trusting, it's this deep, deep depth of trust that everything is happening, like you say, like happening for your own good. It's happening for you. And
Your greatest expansion, even when it sucks in the moment.
it absolutely sucks. Absolutely. Let's just take a moment to go, oh,
Right?
and sometimes it really sucks and you're like, what is happening right now? And one of the most beautiful things he says, fear is safe, right? And that's where we step into that piece of like, whoop, I'm feeling the fear. I am feeling the fear. And one of my mantras is, I'm being brave. I went to Italy with my friend Kelsey back in, I think this was college, in southern Italy. This was Reggio Calabria. The way people drive there is insane. It's like they're all over the road. There's probably a couple inches between car to car, and they
Right.
fast. We had to cross, and it was terrifying. Right, to really take in and go, I'm being brave. I'm being brave. So it's, honoring the process that, yes, sometimes this process, it sucks, right? But there's no mistakes. You are life itself, experiencing and growing and learning. Really coming back to this place where we're turning inwards. This energy is asking us to turn inwards and find within ourselves the thing that we're searching for outside. And we are meant to feel that, right? Because when we come through the second, do you have the gene keys in front of you? What is it? I think it's dislocation.
So it's dislocation, which can express as lost and regimented. And the gift is orientation. The city, highest evolutionary expression, is oneness.
Think about that dislocation. If you think about, we come from this place of unity, and then you have this dislocation, you're like, I'm feeling like what's happening right now. I feel this dislocation within me by your human consciousness. And then coming back to this place of reorienting instead of looking outside of yourself and coming back within you and orienting towards love, loving the experiences, loving yourself, and trusting so deeply that you get to be that receptive, that you get to let it all in, all of it. And he said something along the lines of coming back to the source of the river, and it's love, which makes me so giddy. And just, yes, that's the essence of all of it. And so looking at where in your life right now am I looking outside of myself? The irony of no mistakes, the first gene key is the quintessential masculine, right? That's the very yang, that's the doing. And then the second is the yin. This is the receptive, being open to all of that, right? It's like, I'm open, I'm here for all of it, which again, compassion with yourself when it's really hard and we close off sometimes. That's part of the process, right? It's part of the process.
Right.
But that everything starts from that feminine. And I had such a good giggle, just hearing him talk about how that itself is a mistake. That the first one is the masculine, is actually the feminine that comes first. But that is not a mistake in that it is wrong. It's the experience we're having right now. It's what we're here to go through. Yeah.
That is so deep to really contemplate. Is we have gate 2 is the most yin energy in the chart. And for those who don't realize, the 6 lines are like lines that stack up in a hexagram of 6 different either solid or broken lines. Gate 2 is all broken lines. They're all receptive. So it is the most yin energy in the whole chart. And that is the sun energy right now. There's a strong energy asking us to receive, be grateful, embrace that whole beautiful energy of love in that receptive way. It's asking us to be grounded in this gate 1 energy of the most yang, 6 solid lines, right? This yang energy. And it's interesting that the yang energy, traditionally, we think of that as the male energy, right? The assertive energy is the most creative energy, right? It's not about force. There's nothing in gate 1 that talks about force. It talks about direction and the spark of creativity, right? This is your inner artist, individual energy. It is purely rooted in self-expression, right? This is wear whatever you want. Do you remember that show that was on years ago called What Not to Wear with Stacy and Cliff? And they were so mean. They would go into people's closets because someone hooked them up, because someone decided you shouldn't wear bows. And they would come in and be like, Jess, you're a grown woman. And they would throw all that stuff out. They would tell, there's a sign that said no mini skirts after 30. I was like, what? It was a fun show to watch too. I also enjoyed it. But now they have a new show called Wear Whatever the F You Want. And there's,
Yes.
I think, how screwed up that was. As they get older, they were young. It's funny how sometimes when we're in our 30s, we have this idea that we're so serious. I just saw a reel yesterday of these women who were all in their probably at least 70s. They were walking around the streets of whatever city it was in the most fabulous, colorful, crazy glasses, fun hats, big, colorful skirts, and things that didn't match, but it was so creative and full of self-expression. And I was like, oh my God, I am just going to start really embracing this. Even today, when I was creative spark, I'm like, put on all the things, right? Put on the crazy earrings that you usually think are too much with the collared shirt. And I've got my Frida t-shirt because I feel like she was the embodiment of self-expression. And this is something I was reflecting on in the blog. This gate 2 energy is completely open in my chart. They really do work together. There's a reason they show up together anytime we have one of them in the sun or the earth. Anytime they're in the node, they're there together. Many people have both of these in their chart. There's this dichotomy of yin and yang that can feel icky. It can feel weird. Right now, we're grounding in this yang energy, this self-expression, in order to receive. How can we have a fresh way of looking at what we're doing? Writing these transit blogs has been the very best part of my human design experiment that I've done in almost 9 years. Better than any paid course, anything I've done in a reading. Really contemplate how this energy is showing up. And for me, and so with me not having the 2 in my chart defined, but I have 14 as my conscious sun, right? On my undefined sacral. So that is the strongest seeking energy in my chart. It wants the 2 so bad. And if I focus on not having the 2, I can feel that none of these things are going to come to me. If I focus on what I don't have, what I realized in writing this blog is I have the full spectrum of openness and I amplify everything that I attract. And I have this strong seeking energy that is just screaming for me to receive. And it's pulling all these things to me and I amplify them by whether or not I am grateful and whether or not I have the capacity to hold them in the love. And that is super powerful to contemplate.
I love that. So just to reiterate for everyone, we have the full chart. When I started in human design, I took it as, oh, it's not colored in, it's not mine. We have it. It's just how we experience it. Everybody has the second gate. Everybody has the first gate. It's just, is it more open where you're feeling it around you, or is it the energy that you're bringing in? Nobody's ever missing any part. And knowing that your design, really deeply rooting into the fact that your design is perfect for the experience you're here to have.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was just such a beautiful, right?
Mm.
So I also wanted to say there's a lot of comments in the Facebook group, and I would invite anybody who wants to share to come in on the Zoom because I think I'm going to get distracted if I start trying to read too many of them right now.
Lexi wants to see the full dress. I don't know if you can see the full thing, the quality. It's a full dress.
Fill water. It doesn't have, I expected it to have a big Snow White skirt to it, honestly.
I feel like I could.
I actually know there's a Free People skirt out there that I think comes in that blue. I tried to get it in green for a Christmas party when I was doing Ellen from National Lampoon's Vacation, but I just can't do full skirts because I have no waistline. I'm very straight. So when I put on something like that, I just feel like I'm walking in a tent, right? And so it's not about shaming my body or anything. It's just I don't feel good in it. I wore my slinky little green skirt when I was Ellen from Christmas Vacation. But I think you would look fabulous in the skirt, and I know it came in that blue, and I'm going to send you the link. Because
I love it. We're it's so
Snow White. What? Yeah, it's a very Snow White feeling skirt. The other thing I wanted to share about this energy was that I had been chatting a little bit with Lexi, who's in the Facebook chat. I'd love for you to jump on the Zoom if you feel and don't feel any pressure. She was saying that she has gate 1 as her sun and gate 2 as her earth. And I believe she said conscious. I don't remember. I have your chart somewhere, but I don't even remember. Are you cross of the Sphinx, or do you have a cross of defiance? I think you were, right? Or is that someone else? But the energy of having that gate 1 as your conscious sun and the grounding being in the yin, right? This creative spark of self-expression for her would be the opposite. She was asking, how does it work when you have the gates already defined and then the transits come in? I believe there's a layering on, and everything is always happening for our greatest expansion. If you just sit with the transits, and I'm not saying you have to stop what you're doing, but just hold them in your mind and be aware and look, where am I feeling this call to experience this energy differently, right? Because now you're feeling this gate 2 that for Lexi is normally her conscious side, and she's cross of defiance too. So where you're normally feeling this gate 2 energy as what's grounding you, it's now asking you to feel this more as who you are. So it's going to kind of deepen even that feeling of being grounded in it, because it's layering it on in this new way. You're experiencing it more more strongly, but also in a polarity. So I can't ever tell someone what a transit's going to feel like, because there's so many things that it's going to impact. But I would just look at what is the nuance of how it's being expressed now, and how does that differ from how I feel that expression normally. And so for me, this gate 1 in the earth is really grounding. And I found it really beautiful to spend this time reflecting on the different lines and realizing how nuanced it got. I have gate 1 twice in my chart. On my conscious side, it's defined by Uranus, right? And we know Uranus is a planet that's way out there. It's not one of our, what we call a personal planet. It's a generational planet. It affects pretty much everybody born around when I was. They might have it in a different line, but there's a lot of gate 1. So there's going to be a lot of people my age with that in their chart. And the line 1 is a foundational line, but Uranus in gate 1 specifically, in line 1 specifically, is a little different. So I'm going to just give this as an example so that you guys can think of how you can look at these things in your own chart. I am by this book, Peyton Parkin's Human Design, the Book of Lines, a 21st century view of the I Ching, the Chinese Book of Changes. This is the revised edition. It highlights centers, circuits, and other special features. And honestly, I just love that he has the gene keys elements in here as well. So at the top, he always talks about it. So I'm talking about gate 1 right now, and which is where the earth is, just
I'll
floats.
just add something real quick with this. So a lot of times with human design, there's the knowledge, right? There's the knowledge base, and we learn things. And in life, we've learned like, okay, this is a structure. 2 plus 2 equals 4. This plus this, you research it, and there's a definite answer. But I found in human design, the answer is always, what is the answer for you? What is the truth for you? What is the perspective for you? And there's that rock quote. It's not their way. It's not that way. It's your way. Inviting you to feel into, how does this feel for me? What a beautiful opportunity that we have this activation, and potentially even looking, Kathy's going to go through the different lines and seeing how those show up differently for you. And then also that nuance of the sun and the earth, how that shows up differently. Because I also have gate 1, but I have 8 as well. So I have the channel of inspiration. The way I experience it and answer it may not be the same for you. It's in my moon, my conscious moon, and it's my conscious Pluto. The nuances are particular to me. Sharing our experiences is always a beautiful way to see like, oh, that's interesting. It shows up for them, but always coming back to like, how does it feel in my body? And I'd really invite you to just kind of find a practice to get out of the mind where you're trying to find that answer and feel the answer. How does it feel in my body? And generally speaking, with the transits for them, especially on my conscious side, when there's an activation, it feels comfortable for me. It's like, okay. And then when there's something, especially crisis, it's like, how do I feel this in my body? The other nuance there is with gate 2, because I don't have this activated anywhere, I've noticed in my nervous system, I feel a little bit more heightened in my nervous system. And I've had to be I've chosen to be more intentional with grounding, with sitting outside with my mango tree, with nice baths, taking time to really ground into my body, because I do feel more receptive right now. I am feeling all of the things, especially fears, the totality of everything. So noticing how that feels for you.
Yeah. And I do want to address the whole idea of fears too, because that was something Lexi and I were chatting a little bit about, was how how do you stay in this place of, I'm paraphrasing and extrapolating things in there, Lexi, so forgive me. But how do you sit in this place of high vibration frequency when it feels like the world is on fire, right? And what I started to write about in the blog, because I was feeling this deeply, is the idea that if we're programming our magnetic monopoles all the time. And if we're focusing on the fires that we have no ability to put out, that we are not, it's not like we are the only one who knows about it, so we have to call the fire department. Lots of people know about it, right? But they're not the fire in our, if there's a fire in your driveway, your neighbor's house is on fire, hell yes. Call the fire department, go there. But if it's somewhere where you are not, I'm not saying that we don't share our collective voices and that we don't make an impact, but when we're all just screaming about the fires, we're fueling the fires in a sense, right? We're fueling that collective fire of disruptiveness, of low vibrational energy. And there are a lot of things in the spiritual community right now that are talking about this split that has happened between the 3D and the 5D, where some of us literally are just not living in that world anymore. That is something that I'm really choosing, is to not live in that world. Now, that doesn't mean that if my neighbor's house is on fire and I feel I have a way to make an impact, that I'm not going to do that, even if they're living in the 3D. But the best thing we can do is to keep ourselves in this place of gratitude so that we are drawing in this positive, receptive energy. And when you feel yourself in those negative places, acknowledging the pain and suffering that's out there, but focusing on how can I draw in more love and light to the world, to the whole world, because it's not just us, right? So
beautiful. Erin said, hi, I just moved through something like this yesterday into the morning, gates 1 and 2, clarity, fear into love. Yes. Yes, that's so deeply it. And, just to share my own personal experience recently, there was something in my life and it was very definitively a sacral yes. It was a yes for me. And I know it's a yes, but the fear came up. And then I started to feel the shutdown and I started to feel the overwhelm in my nervous system, in my body. And I'm like, hold on, this feels big. This feels really big. And this feels scary. And knowing what fear feels like in my body, that acknowledging that it was still a yes, it was still the right thing. It wasn't like, oh no, this feels bad. This is not right for me. It's an expansion, and deeply knowing what your authority is and being connected into that really helps you root in and navigate it, because you're like, okay, I know this is a yes for me. So for my sacral, this is my yes. I got the response. I know this is right. And now I'm going to hold space for this fear. And I'm going to work through this fear and see what's coming up for me in this.
Yeah. And being really receptive to what it's bringing up and really seeing, that's beautiful. I want to acknowledge that was a beautiful share. I just right away start going into my process and like adding on to it, because it got me going. It got my mind thinking of all these things. There is this tendency that we can get caught up, even with the transits, we can get caught into our mind. What is this going to do, right? And it's important. Our mind is a beautiful thing. Contemplating is a gorgeous process, but the contemplating the transits can help us to see where in the past we have just been led by the transits, right? Where this energy has allowed us to get into a this is happening to me kind of energy, instead of how is this happening for me? This is what's really important about this transit, grounding in the receptivity. We're receiving these energies. We're not acting on them, even though we're grounded in this directional yang, which tends to feel like go do it kind of energy. It's still really about receptivity. And the creative spark is very individual. It's like expression. It's not so much about doing something, as expressing something. If we're not really grounded in our creativity, in our receptivity also, we're not going to necessarily express it in ways that are helping anything. Because if our expression is coming through anger and outrage, sure, there's a place for that. I don't want to sound like Pollyanna, although I love Pollyanna. It's a great movie. There is this desire to create something. What is the freshness we're creating? Gate 1 is the shadow of entropy, where everything that's happening has us just folding inward in this helpless state, right, of being depressed or frenetic. And I talked about that a little bit yesterday when we did the Karma by Design, which if you're in the group, you can find in the group. We did this Karma by Design masterclass yesterday. It was awesome. But that depressive frenetic energy folding inward, instead, what's the freshness? How can I express something in a fresh way that feels beautiful, that feels like I'm going towards beauty? It's important to acknowledge that beauty is sometimes sad, right? Some of the most beautiful music is so sad. But how can you find a fresh, creative way to express what you're feeling and receiving in a way that's not just another angry voice on the internet, not just sharing another outraged clip about how horrible something is, right? Because that's just adding to the collective noise. And this is individual energy, it's individual expression. How can we do it in a way that really resonates with the direction and what we want to attract in our lives?
Love. How do I do this from a place of love?
Right. Absolutely.
Mm.
Yeah. So do you want to quick go through the lines on gate 2?
You want me to do? I'll do. Yes, quickly.
I know Jess has to. I almost, damn it, I did the Jen thing again. But you don't know, my best friend in this area, like in non-human design life, is named Jen. And so I often start with the J and it comes out Jen. Yeah. Jen. How about you both? Jen.
Hey, John. That's funny.
You're like 9J people too.
Okay, let's see that we go to the receptive. Line 1, for anybody who isn't familiar, as we go through the gate, it goes through the 6 different line activations, and the 6th one is the one that's like the tipping point into that next activation. So line 1 is intuition. Then line 2 is genius. Lexi, if you want us to pop these in the group for you to contemplate, and if anybody else would like to contemplate through the actual ones that might be helpful, we can definitely do that. Let us know as well as we're doing these. If you're like, oh, it would be so wonderful if you could share this and we'll see if it's right for us to help you all, like support you going through these transits and through this energy. Line 2 is genius. Line 3 is patience. Line 4, secretiveness. Line 5, intelligent application. Line 6, fixation.
Okay. Chaitan has different names for all of them, and I will just quickly read them because there's similar nuances. Chaitan studied with Ra, and he didn't like a lot of Ra's language, which some of you know. Ra says things in a way that you're like, wow, that's very gate 51 of you, Ra. Very
The Grinch.
Yeah. So the way that Tan describes them is a little bit different, and that's why another reason I have both books, and I tend to look at both. In fact, they're both in my lap right now. Tell me you're a projector without telling me you're a projector. Show me the books. Projectors, we're here to study. We're here to master whatever systems we're into. Gate 2, line 1, which we're in right now, is called Crystal Vision, receptive to guidance that accords to the beauty of existence. Which is interesting. He's talking about beauty, which is a very line 1 thing. But gate 2, line 2 is being gifted natural access to an intelligence that often defies logical explanation. Gate 2, line 3 is patient knowing, acknowledging that life never ceases giving lessons. Gate 2, line 4 is concealing, knowing much but revealing only the essential. Gate 2, line 5 is strategy, biding your time until action is merited. Gate 2, line 6 is being preoccupied. Tunnel vision limits your capacity to expand fully. Which is interesting when you read something like that in a 6th line, because we always think 6th line is the role model, right? But there's always, tendencies in certain things to get trapped in certain sorts of ways. To just be aware of those things is very helpful. And I know, Jess, you have to jump off early because you're momming. And
We're
right?
going
Into
to
a
a
party.
birthday party in the park.
Yeah, and
Me
so I
too.
can go through line 1 after you jump off if you need to go, but if you had anything else you want to say before you jump off, I'll go through gate 1 is what I meant.
This was beautiful. Thank you for putting that into words. I have 5 of 7 swinging gates, so I deeply relate to the fears coming up. Just deeply loving yourself, right? As you're feeling fears right now. I think we're all feeling so many fears that, again, coming back to this place of like, okay, it's perfect. It's perfect to be feeling these things and finding ways to support yourself. Like, what is it that I need in this moment as I'm open and receptive to work through this? And knowing, again, coming back to that place of love. So I love you all. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Bye. Okay, I'm going to just go through line 1 or gate 1. So we have the full view of all of that. And then if there's anybody who has any questions they want to put in the Facebook groups, or Sharon, you're here in the Zoom. If you want to come on, feel free to keep me company, or if you have a question. So gate 1, and I'll do it the same order she did. I have both books. Let's do it this way. Dueling books. Gate 1, according to Ra, is creation, or line 1 is creation is independent of will. And the way Chaitan phrases that is pure creativity without motive, gifted with creativity. And this is what I was saying is where my Uranus defines on my conscious side. And it's really interesting because Uranus is in detriment, according to Ra. And for those of you who don't know, each gate has a planet that is considered putting it in detriment or exalted. Chaitan doesn't use those terms because Ra said if he could change anything he named, he would not name them that because he took that from astrology. People tend to think one is better than the other. He thinks they should have just been this or that. They're just different ways, nuances to the expression, and they're neither good or bad, just like nothing in your chart is good or bad. The Uranus expression here for line 1 is instability leads to distraction. Here, patience is a virtue and revolution a vice. Creative instability unless there is patience, right? So that really feels like I need this grounding in this in gate 2 energy right now, even though it's not the earth, but I'm still needing to remember that. Tan says creative brilliance is hard to restrain. Learning patience is essential for your truth. So these are great resources. So I'm not going to read all the detriments or whatever. I just did that because I had talked about it before being mine. So line 2 is love is light. Chaitan describes it as being in accord, aligning with universal truths. So these are really deep energies. Line 3 is the energy to sustain creative work. And Chaitan calls that creative thrust, applying yourself to your best ability. Because that is one where the earth is going to define one of those alternate things. So on Monday, we'll be in that line 3 energy with the earth. That one says materialism invariably affects the quality of your creativity. Being diligent is important. So that's interesting. I'm wondering if anybody has gate 1, line 3 in their earth, if they can put in the comments how that feels to them. Ra describes it as material forces can disrupt creativity and lead to ambition. Materialism disrupts creativity. If your creativity becomes a materialistic way to achieve money, it can taint the pure creativity of it. Not that we shouldn't be paid for our creative expressions, but if that is the reason you're doing it, let me do this so I can make money. Let me do it differently when we allow materialism. This is also when we allow materialism to alter who we are. And I think Frida was such an experience, a great example of someone who did not do that. She just did her own thing and didn't let anybody tell her what it was supposed to do. And that is true creative expression. But if some art critic was saying, well, you need to tone this down, or this is a little too weird, then it taints your expression. So line 4, which is my unconscious moon, is aloneness as the medium of creativity, the tension of inner light. And that is also one that has a different expression when the earth defines it. So on Tuesday, we can keep in mind the earth exalted as the symbol of personal perspective, manifested outside of influence where the potential magic of inspiration is diluted. Creativity that must develop outside of influence. Here, I'll read on and then I'll tell you my thoughts on that, because I've been contemplating that one quite a bit with the karma clearing stuff we've been doing. Chaitan calls it the artist alone, finding yourself in the middle of the creative process. A flow of personal creativity brings you into intimate contact with existence. And the earth, specifically in that line, is your creativity develops and flowers best away from outside influences. This is really about using creative expression to find yourself. I feel like that has been happening with my writing of the blog. As I write these blogs and all these different things that I'm doing, I am feeling deeper and deeper connection with my higher self in a way that's really beautiful for me. And hopefully somebody else is enjoying it too. But if no one read my blog, it would still be one of the most important things that I've done. Number 5, line 5 is what to do wrong. The energy to attract society. And Chaitan calls that magnetic creativity, a means to fascinate people with your creative pursuits. Line 6 is objectivity. And again, that one has an expression with the earth. So a lot of earth energy with this gate 1. Clear assessment of creative value, clarity in creative expression. And Chaitan calls it the hollow bamboo. The artist as a medium through whom existence plays her song. Oh, that's really pretty. That's a pretty metaphor. I have not read that one. Whether you can embrace this or not, creativity is its own resource and the artist the medium. And then the earth specifically, he says, this is line 6. So that's going to be right before the transit changes. So what's that going to be, Friday? Through meditation and detachment, you give form to the freest expressions of creativity. So these are really great resources to help you contemplate how this might feel for you. But I do want to add my caveat here that human design is not something to learn. It's something to experiment and experience. None of this is about learning human design. It's a tool to find yourself in a place where you can get that radical self-trust, where you know in the core of who you are that you're supported, that you're okay, that everything's happening for your greatest expansion, even when it sucks in the moment. I just am wondering if anybody has anything they want to add. I noticed there's a lot of general comments that people have related with things, but if there's any questions, we have a couple minutes left and I can answer those. I hope that brought some insights to some of you. We'll be doing our next transit talk on Friday, May 9th. I would love to invite any of you to join us. I will have the blog up sometime today. I'm still deeply connecting with these energies and how they are showing up in my life. I don't see any questions. Shauna Marie, guinea pig the self and go experience it. That's what it's all about. And then make it mean something, right? Because sometimes the things that are the most painful in the moment or we feel like are the biggest screw ups or whatever are the universe showing us the work that we need to do in a way that makes us go, oh, I guess I'm going to deal with this, right? I got to deal with this because it's getting too hard not to. And we do something and it changes everything. So thanks for joining us. Bye.